r/ProRevenge.
Killed a tow company with one simple phone call. I killed an entire tow company with one phone call. On mobile, so bear with me. Several years back I went to work for a towing company. It's about all I know how to do other than paint cars, which is drastically affecting my health. The pay was pretty decent, but we had to share trucks and the boss felt that he knew where we needed to sit in order to get the best calls. This is important for later. Several months in, I realized that I was not making the type of money that I should be making. So I took the opportunity while I was sitting in a parking lot one evening to start researching the laws pertaining to employees in similar positions. He was kind of an asshole and the trucks had transponders so that he could see if we had them idling with the air conditioner on a hot day, or idling with the heat on a cold day. He was always complaining about something if the wheels were not turning. During my research I discovered that if he was requiring us to sit in a certain parking lot, street, or any location of his choosing, then we were entitled to be paid an hourly wage, not just our commission. The technical term was engaged to wait. However, if he allowed us to freely roam about while we waited for calls, we were not entitled to hourly wages and we were therefore considered waiting to be engaged. I never mentioned this to him, but I did start taking note of my time. Another month or so goes by and he decided to start coming down on me for tiny little BS, things that ordinarily wouldn't even matter, such as I forgot a pop can in the cup holder. He actually had a screaming fit about that. At this point I was tired of working there and had already found another job, so I decided it was time to put my plan into motion. I called him up, told him that we needed to have a conversation about my final wages and that we could meet at his convenience. Upon entering the office I laid out my argument, explained the state law, and told him I expected to be paid for the hours that I was on the clock but not freely allowed to roam looking for work or able to do things of my choosing. He told me in no uncertain terms would not be paid for that time, as that was agreed to upon my employment. I did not bother to argue, as I already had my next step planned, so I took my final check and I left. The following Monday, I made a phone call to the State Labor Board, where I laid out my case to them. Needless to say, they were very interested in what was going on. In the end, they came to review his employment records and speak to the driver still working. When he got the bill of what he had to pay us all, it was too much for him to afford, so he sold the trucks, his boat, and lot and went out of business. I never got the money owed to me in full, only a fraction. But the satisfaction of knowing the law just a little bit better than he did and watching it all burn was pure bliss. TL. Dr. Boss fucks us on legally entitled wages, I sink his company with one phone call.
A response to the post.
It's amazing how many of these stories really only happen because the boss was an asshole on a power trip. Be nice to your employees, because they're smarter than you think and have resources you haven't considered.
A response to the post.
I hate business owners that think the laws don't apply to them.
A response to this comment.
They are literally the reason why the laws exist to begin with.
A response to the post.
I worked at the Philadelphia branch of a NYC company that didn't pay city wage taxes. My boss thought he didn't have to pay BC, it was a NYC company, but he wasn't paying NYC wage tax either, and Philadelphia doesn't care, and if you have employees working in Philly, the city will get its share. My boss was a hot mess, and one of my friends warned me he had the hots for me, but I was so naive I literally said to her, "Oh, no, that's not possible, he's married." After I turned down several advances from him, he fired me and hired another young woman, who he started sleeping with a few weeks later. On my last day of work, who arrives but the people from the city, and they garnished everyone's paychecks until back city wages were collected. Except mine, because I was leaving. I have a feeling that today they would have come after me, but back then they may not have had the resources to do so. He was certain I had ratted him out. It wasn't, but I was totally okay with him thinking it was me.
A response to the post.
Haha, I quit my towing job yesterday because my company docked me for damage to the truck. After a year and a half without incident, I bumped the mirror on a tree while making room for an emergency to get by me on a narrow gravel road, kid having an asthma attack, which they docked me $500 for. I've been the sole operator for that entire time, they have no one else, and I will be taking through labor standards because in Canada nothing can be docked from pay. So similar outcome, the tow company is done, they will not find anyone else willing to do what I was on call 24/7 without an actual day off for months on a stretch.